Bloody hell, that's warm. Sorry, I'm a minute late. I forgot what I forgot where I put my phone. I mean, it's bad enough walking into a room going, why did I come in here? It's that old age thing. So, welcome to everyone that's got their feet under the table. Adrian Blackmore is here. Oh, hang on. Is here waiting. Mr. John, good evening, Adrian. Yeah, wrongin'. And to everyone, Adrian Blackmore, how's the song coming along? Adrian, is it on? Have you managed to get it on YouTube? Well, I never. Mr. John, oh, right. I'll have to check that out later. Well done, by the way. If you can, could you maybe post a link to it? Adrian? The old Bovril. Hello, Adrian. Yeah, wrong. I trust you had some juicy gossip lined up for us all. You wrongin'. Always. Let me just see if I can give this a bit of a tweak. I mean, I literally, my head is swimming with stuff that I want to bring you. So there's, I'll get to the sort of intro and tell you what we're going to talk about, but it is in the description. We've got loads and loads and loads and loads and loads and loads to talk about, and some takes on things. But I'll just do, you know, a couple of minutes of introductions. PT Ham, hi Adrian and all. Evening, PT Ham. Any updates on how Alex of the Belfield is? Not at the moment. Not at the moment. It's very quiet. Or is it? PT Ham, do you remember Zippy of Rainbow with a banana, 1 skin, 2 skin, 3 skin? Last one, leave that to your imagination. Yeah, I know. I once had a newsreader say, oh, can I? Yeah. A radio newsreader that shall remain nameless once called me Bungle. I think the words were, the direct quote is, oh, isn't he cute? Doesn't he look like Bungle? Stop that before you start. George is a helpfully hippo shy. Sometimes Zippy would only have 1 arm, and sometimes he would have 2. And sometimes his shoulders would shrug. Why would that be? Eddie Blackmore, they used the rugby ball for Zippy's head. Honestly, surreal. What? Evening, Tower Block Tracy. Good to have you in the church, the body of the church. £5 bet that he is late. Did anybody take it? Do you know what? The reason why I was late was I'd put my phone on charge because I was thinking, oh, 70%, maybe if I talk too long, it won't last. That won't last. And sure enough, I'm running around the house going, where's my bloody phone? Mrs. Allen's not in the house this evening. She's away. And I'm thinking, oh, I haven't got a phone to call her to find it. Can we dance the Macarena? I'll tell you about the wedding in a second. No technical problems yet again. No, it's as smooth as a baby's derriere. The Bovril says, oh, he's late, no doubt, having to finish off doing the dishes. I'm on my own for 4 days. Gee, you think I'm going to do dishes? Takeaway sent on my house. Honestly, takes many a year to get a body like this. And many, lots of takeaways. Rusty Mouse, no, Adrian, open the door. Probably rummaging in his wardrobe, decided what colour t-shirt to put on. I just put the first one that came to hand. Oh, yes, there you go. Andy Turner says, probably being untied by Mrs. Allen. Only on a weekend, Andy. Top of 69, evening, yeah. Wrong. Did you get me email? Yes, I did. Top of 69. But it takes me a little while to get around to things because there's lots to talk about. I didn't really publicise this this live tonight, but what I did do was went to a wedding at the weekend. Lovely, just lovely. I mean, the bride was breathtakingly beautiful. The groom, obviously, handsome. And isn't that always the way? I mean, Mrs. Allen and I were a little dewy-eyed because it's the first wedding we'd been to, and I'm sure this is the same all over the world, but it was the first wedding we'd been to since we were married. So we were a little dewy-eyed and, cool, blimey. The bride made an amazing entrance. No, I'm not using that for comedic effect. Yeah, wrong one. She was beautiful, beautiful. And it was just a great day. And I didn't drink. I was the designated driver, only because Mrs. Allen said, "Right, yeah, wrong one." Go figure. She said, "Are you going to drink?" So get there. Oh, the grog. It just flowed. And I was just, well, I'll take one for the team, Mrs. Allen. I just need to fill me pot of brownie points up again. Especially when she gets back from where she is and then goes, "You've been eating what?" Quite. So the wedding was beautiful. It was fabulous. We had a fabulous time. I had a bit of a dance. And I'll tell you this, our first dance at our wedding was kind of pre-arranged. We danced to a beautiful song, Love. I can't remember his name now. God, it's gone out of my head. But so we kind of did a variation on a theme to that whilst the band was singing. I think the singer was quite impressive. All I can say is congratulations to bride and groom. I'm not going to bring their names here. I don't want to subject them to anything without their approval, but they're off on their honeymoon, bless them. Going to have a rare old time, fabulous time. Family, the whole family. I mean, there was hundreds of people there at the wedding, and it was magnificent. It was fabulous. It was wonderful. So tonight it's live number 42. The next live is, hang on, what day are we on? Wednesday. This coming Sunday. Now, I must warn you that Mrs. Allen and I are going on a bit of a road trip at the weekend. So I've made my team aware, the team that works on the channel. I'll use that term loosely, but they're aware that I'm not going to be around. So it's going to be a bit of a, if I get caught in traffic, but I will let you know there will be a live on Sunday. Live number 43. There will be a live. Sarah Ann, Plain Existence. Good evening, Adrian from Pontypool. Beautiful part of the world, Sarah Ann. Thank you. Lynn Turner. Good morning, Adrian et al. From New Zealand. Thank you, Lynn. Everything good in New Zealand now that you've got rid of that mad woman? Mad Matt UK. Good evening, Adrian. Yeah, wrong. I hope you had a great time at the wedding on Sunday. Oh, fabulous. Fabulous, fabulous. Oh, the food. I mean, love me grub. What's the old saying? Healthy appetite, healthy mind. So the food was incredible. The free grog. I wish. I know that I shan't talk out of school, but I think Mrs. Allen had a little thicker head on Monday morning when she woke. It's all right. I looked after her. She didn't get arrested or anything. So next live, Sunday, live 43. Tonight we're going to mention the Middle East ceasefire because what I predicted last week is coming true right now as we speak. Let's talk about Princess Diana. I want your opinion. I want to know, do you think Princess Diana was murdered or do you think it was just a very sad accident? Boston breaks. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And what I do intend on doing is I haven't been able to respond correctly, proportionately, appropriately to all of your comments over the last couple of months since the wedding. So I am going to start looking at them and I'm going to address my lax responses and I'm going to make sure that you get responses to your comments. So was Diana, Princess Diana, no longer an HRH? Was she murdered or was it an accident? And the reason I mention that, it's The Crown. And I've given you almost a week to watch The Crown if you're going to watch it. I didn't want to do anything on the lives with spoilers or... Sean, you're utter wrong. You can spend the next few days practicing playing your organ. I'm not going to do the He doesn't play in cathedrals. Gag. Andy Turner said, no New Zealand. Now had no Leadmans. I think he was back over, wasn't he? He was no Leadmans. I mean, he's got his pile, his country seat in New Zealand, place where you can sunbathe and ski at the same time, ish, kind of. So Andy Turner, I said, was Princess Diana murdered? Andy Turner, yes. Eddie Blackmore, yes. Wiggy 40. Hang on, Wiggy videos. Have you had a birthday or something? You were 13 last week. You're now 14. Deliberate accident. But I would, as breaking, the explosion at New York Rainbow Bridge connecting the US and Canada was an attempted terrorist attack. Wow, Sarah Ann, where have you got that from? What's your source? I haven't seen that before I came on air, and I always have a look, see what the reportage is, just in case something breaks just before I come on, because, you know, we might be able to talk about it. Keith Thomas, yucky guy, Adrian. Yeah, wrong, and Keith. The Vapist, long time no here. The last time I heard you was on East Midlands Radio back during the fuel strikes. That awkward 20-minute silence at the end of the show. The Vapist, it was, oh, you're almost correct. It wasn't 20 minutes. It was, I said, I've had enough. I did a Dave Lee Travis. I've had enough. I played the theme to the show and left, and you should have seen the look on people's faces. Should have. The convicted stalker ran after me as I left the building. He was, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I said, oh, here, you can fuck stop Oscar. I'm not interested. I'm going home. And then there was a lot of, oh, Adrian, come back. Don't, no, how can we, and I just said, look, I'm not coming back. But that is for another video. And another story. It's quite a convoluted story. There's lots of moving parts, and I will bring it to you in good time. So, the Vapist, welcome to the body of the church. Good to know that you're here. And yeah, that's how handsome I really am. To Magaluf Tracy. Oh, trending on Twitter. Okay. No, Hayden, who's that? Mr. Fafo and the Doom Goblin are getting married. Where have you heard that from? Blimey. I tell you, she changed once she got a bit of the Bobby. Absolutely. Eddie Blackmore, sinister forces tried to kill Camilla in a road, but she's 5, so they went after Diana. No, I not heard that one, Eddie. That's interesting. Stephen Hall. I visited the East Midlands for the first time in 2 years last week. Oh, I bet it's still beautiful though, Stephen. What a great place. Love it, love it, love it. I've got some very, very dear friends in the East Midlands. Nottingham, Derbyshire. Not so much Leicestershire. I don't know why, but Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire. Oh, fabulous. Vivian Kenyon. Hello, Adrian. Good to see you. Vivian Darlaw. Do you know, I was talking to somebody at the wedding, and I'm sure that somebody said, oh, I'm from Darlington. And I kind of turned round. No, it's all right, Viv. I didn't think it was you. But I said to her, are you from Darlaw? And she looked at me as if I was some kind of lunatic. Obvs. And she just she wandered off. Now that's not somebody from Darlington. What was the pub I was always in? Fancy the barmaid run. Was it the Black Bull? Just near the footy stadium. Right, okay. Dutch election. Results coming in. Anti-Islam populist. Geert Wilders predicted to win most seats in the Dutch election. First exit poll shows. Is it 10 o'clock in Holland already? Cool, blimey. Keith Thomas, any update on the phone in, Adrian? We are still working on it. Yes, we are. I think we've worked out the technicality of it all, but now we're just trying to find some software. But it's, I mean, at this rate, this should be my full-time job because it's literally taking 25 hours a day. But yeah, Keith, it is on the way. It's definitely coming. Don Wigley, was AB always obnoxious? No. As I've said in other videos, I knew Alex Belfield when he was 17 years old. And he was never obnoxious to me, but I do believe that his situation got a hold of him and he acted improperly. And I'm not talking about the court case at all, but Hang on a second. I'll get back to that in a second. Tower Block Tracy. Wrong un. Merch. I need a mug. Mugs are coming. Okay. I'm going to ask you in the comments. Do you want a wrong un mug? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Top of 69, yes, we do need them. Stephen Hall, AB could be crude sometimes. Yes, I know. And that's why when I started this channel, bless you, all ones. More threats being made. Hezbollah should realise that what has happened in Gaza could also happen in Beirut. Let's finish this Alex Belfield piece off, and then I'll get to the Middle East ceasefire, because there's a lot of oddity going on around that. Hang on, Tower Block Tracy. I didn't give you 3 as an option, you utter wrong one. Okay. A mug is a mug. Any mug will do. Wiggy videos. Everybody's after a mug. Alex and Stocken. Alex and Stocken. Good to have you in the body of the church. So I just, at the beginning, I kind of, my potty mouth came out, and I just was being quite a sweary Mary. And then I just took a bit of Tower Block Tracy, free tart. I just took a step back and thought, well, look, let's apply what we did on the radio. Sorry, I'm using the royal we. Let's apply what we did on the radio and put radio authority standards on this. So we just change things around. If I'm getting potty mouth, I use Foxtrot Oscar. I use caring, understanding 90s type. So there's ways around it, clever ways around it, intelligent ways around it. And that's the way that's the way I want to go. So yes, he could be crude. And yes, he, in my view, started believing his own publicity and decided to use some of this, decided to become what he'd always wanted to become, which was me. Now, I know that sounds really egotistical, and it's not meant to, but he worked with me. He used a load of my lines: scum sucking pond life, namby-pamby pinko liberal, mogadon. He used loads of them. He just took my radio act, subsumed it, and it became him. He won't be able to use it when he comes out. Totally 69's come up with a great idea. Yes, I'm a wrong un. Adrian Allen said I am. We're definitely using that, Tucker. Oh, another good one from Mad Matt. He's no light lunch, you wrong un, written on the mug, front and back. Adrian, just saying. Yeah, we'll give that a go. Battenberg t-shirts, we're already on that, but we have to look at copyright. Tower Block Tracy, ribbed Battenberg condoms. Oh, do you know, I was going to be serious tonight. I was going to be very serious tonight, but I'm not going to, simply because you're encouraging me to be naughty. John 1 Kenobi, I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Well, technically, it's a great idea, but technically it's somebody else's copyright. So if I put it on anything as merch and earn money from it, I could get sued. I'm not quite sure how the convicted stalker got away with that, but it is somebody else's copyright. It's the name of a book, and it belongs to somebody in America, and it is copyrighted. I've checked it; it is copyrighted. Dave Miller, yeah, murdered. It looks like everybody that's in that house tonight believes that it's that Diana was murdered. So what can I? Because we're working on a video in the background. It's slow progress, but there's going to be 2 videos. It's going to be one about my stories of Mohammed Al Fayed, because I did meet him. I was part of his management team at Liberty 963 at the time of Diana's death. And I'm also going to do my take on what happened to Diana and the reason why I believe she was murdered. Because there's evidence right there. And even the Crown, this episode 4. Oh, the Battenberg Broadcasting Corporation, Wiggy, you're genius. The old Bovril reckons Tracy, that Tower Block Tracy's being naughty tonight. Not at first, let me tell you. Stephen Hall, Belfield could be funny sometimes. Yeah, of course he was. But he was nicking other people's gags all the time. I've told you about the gags that he's come up to me with. And I didn't question them. I wasn't particularly interested. I was too busy doing other things. Sean, front, righten, and then back, wrongin'. Brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And thank you to everyone that's leaving those comments. They're just brilliant. And we are going to do it. Can't do it in time for Christmas. We've looked at the process. We looked at the orders. Tower Block Tracy, sorry, drinking cheap red wine. You tart. So we'll do the mugs, we'll do the t-shirts, the merch will and YouTube are allowing me to do merch. That's why we're suddenly going to have a play around with that, simply because they've said I can do merch on the channel. So, but I want it to be either funny merch or I want it to be inclusive. I don't want it to be. I don't. Don Wigley. Okay, part 2 of my question: is he genuinely racist? He never showed that to me, if you know what I mean. No, he. You see, my on-air persona in the East Midlands was very right-wing. There are organisations in the East Midlands, and I literally can't tell you the name of those organisations because to this day I've had my dad did, not necessarily me, but had his phone tapped, and because of his involvement in politics, and they were monitoring my phone all the time, even when I was at the BBC. There was just odd things happening. And there are certain organisations that if you verbalise them, the intelligence services start looking at you immediately. Blimey, Lauren, you're a cheap date. Lauren Taylor says, "Oh, Tower Block Tracy, don't be sorry, I'm drinking Aldi Lager." Where did that? The BBC's idea of local radio is now 2 local programmes a day. I know, Stephen. I've got dear friends that work in the BBC. Some have lost their jobs. Some have had to reapply for their jobs. It's just pants, man. And the BBC's done. I've said from the beginning of this channel, the BBC is a busted flush. I'm telling you. Yeah, Andy, all of that. Thank you very much. So let's get stuck into this. So I've looked at The Crown episode. I mean, I got quite, because I've met Mohammed Al Fayed and I worked for him. I mean, to be fair, he was very eccentric. And I'll tell you this now. I'll give you some insight into A, my working life, and B, into the characters that I've met. I'm not going to go anywhere near on a live what my theory is around Diana. And I was there. I was right there in the heart of it, in the heart of history. And, you know, I did on the Friday night, I did a program on Liberty 963, and Mohammed Al Fayed, Mr. Mohammed Al Fayed, had bought the radio station because he thought it was, he was going to bring the government down. Because there was proper stuff going on in the background. The royal family, as I said to you, on the weekend of Diana's death, the front page article on all of the Sundays that came out in London around about 8-9 o'clock at Charing Cross was that they were taking their warrants away from Harrods. So you know the warrants that were on the side of the building. So it's Queen Mum, Philip, Queen, Charles, I can't remember who else, but it was all warrants. And they were coming off Harrods. They were pulling their warrants away from Harrods because there was just, you know, very wealthy and powerful people don't have like stand-up arguments, you know, over a pint of beer. No, they just do it very subtly and very gently, and they were taking the warrants away. And episode 4, I get that everybody is saying, oh, well, you know, what, they're bringing Diana back as a ghost for the Queen and Charles. And if you've not seen it yet, maybe you go make a cup of tea or something, because I'm just gonna tell you my personal experience. And so it may include some spoilers, but I'm telling you this, that The Crown, and Peter Morgan, the writer of The Crown, has changed some stuff. And I believe he's changed some stuff to appease the royal family, because there's things in there in The Crown that I thought, that didn't happen. Well, it kind of happened, but it didn't happen that way. And literally, and I've been trying to find it in my archive, there is a book called Diana, The Last 24 Hours. And I can tell you categorically that Dodi did not propose. Did not propose. But in The Crown, he went down on one knee, and Diana was like, "Oh, Dodi, man, no." No, he didn't propose, but he had the ring. He had the ring. And they were going back to his apartment for him to propose. They didn't get there. The ring was in the apartment. So there's a very well-researched book, Diana, The Last 24 Hours, and I wanted to put my hand on it just to kind of put it in vision so you could see that I genuinely have the book and have read it. I've read Trevor Rees-Jones's biography. I've read a lot of the Diana books that were subsequently and around at the time. Yeah, Marcia Toms, I get what you're saying, that they did it for dramatic effect, and I think it's not factual. The thing is, as a historical document, a lot of people will watch that and go, well, he proposed to her and she said no. But I know that he didn't. And I understand why Mr. Fayed was the way that he was after Dodi's death. But the burial of Dodi, everybody forgot about him. He was just a persona non grata. See what I did there? They didn't. He was just gone. And under Muslim Arabic tradition, body has to be buried within 24 hours. Similar across the Middle East. Jews exactly the same. Has to be buried quickly. And then they sit shiva. So I watched episode 4. Andrew, I'll get to that in a second. I got quite upset because I believe that what Muhammad al-Fayed, Mr. Fayed, was saying was the truth. He had no reason to lie. His son had been taken from him and he's buried on his estate. Mr. Fayed's no longer around, so his children will have inherited that and will look after wherever Dodi is on the estate. I know that he built a kind of commemorative, whatever it was, at Harrods, because he was. I do believe that the Crown is accurate in some things. That Mr. Fayed couldn't believe his luck. He was, going to. His son was possibly going to marry the future King of England's mum. I mean, Mr. Fayed was a rapidly ambitious man, and he made his fortune. And I'm using this as an example so that you can get where cockeyed sunk is, as in rich boy, as in the Prime Minister, and where call me Dave, the pig fucker, is. Sorry. But so Mr. Fayed was the money man. He was the accountant. He was a wealth manager for the Saudi royal family. And he got into, and I don't think this is anywhere, but Mr. Fayed got into the wealth management, so he had access to billions, and he could spend to make more money for his bosses. But because he had access to billions, where can you make big money, like big world-changing money, and quickly? In the arms or armaments race. So he knew Adnan Khashoggi for a long time, and Adnan Khashoggi was kind of the number one arms dealer in the world at that time. So Mr. Fayed had done some deals, and that's how he became a millionaire. He didn't just appear and go, oh, I'll buy Harrods. He had to amass the money and the wealth beforehand. And he used his money very wisely. He was a wealth manager, a wealth creator for wealthy people. So when he became wealthy, he knew how to make wealth. He knew how to become even more rich. But Liberty 963 was just a little plaything. At the time, Mohammed Mr. Fayed had this battle with Tiny Roland. Now, you've got to be of a certain age to remember the things that I'm telling you now, but Mohammed Al Fayed had a huge battle with Tiny Roland to get Harrods. So when Mr. Fayed could never work out why they went for his son, they thought they were after him. Sorry, he thought they, whomever they may be, were after him. So I was, on the Sunday, I found out very early doors. I lived in a place called Hampton, near Hampton Court, not far, about a 5-minute walk from Hampton Court. And I heard this. I went downstairs to chuck some rubbish out, very early doors. And I heard this bell, like a really weird bell. I'd never heard anything like it before. And I went back upstairs, and the girl that I was living with, I said, listen to this. It's really odd. What's that? And she went, that's a tolling bell. I said, what's that when it's at home? She said, something's happened. Something major. Queen Mum, possibly. So we thought the Queen Mum had died. So we switched the telly on and find out it's about Diana. At literally the point where I switched the TV on, my phone starts going nuts. And look, I had to get into town. I had to get into town because we're running Mr. Fayed's radio station, and his son has been killed in a car crash. Princess Diana at the time was injured. Okay, Mad Matt, thank you. This is why I need to, after I've finished, this is why I need to look at your comments, because there's a lot of information coming in tonight that I need to look at, action, and then bring to the next live on Sunday. So I heard the tolling bell, switched the TV on, got into town. That's why I know what was on the front pages of the early editions, because we had the early editions in Liberty 963 in the office. And it was kind of a long and thin office with the studios at one end and the managing director's office at the other end. And we got in there, we were deciding what we were doing. And I did a program on the Sunday evening, because literally everything was up in the air. We didn't know what we were doing, but we had to support Mr. Fayed because his son had been killed. So we were running news as much as we could get, and I was on air. So we go into what's called an obituary procedure, an obit procedure, where it's inoffensive, bland, and songs that you maybe know, a bit like Fleetwood Mac and Albatross. That's one of the songs that's on everybody's obit list. So you go straight into it. And we were running that. But the boss said to me, look, Adrian, you do a program tonight. We'll do this. We'll do various programs of this type. And I was sitting in the studio. So I'm looking at you, and to my right was a window in the studio, and the window looked straight across to the roof of Harrods. We were that far up. He had Punch the magazine in there, Fulham Football Club in there, on varying floors, and Liberty 963 was on, I think it was the 6th floor. And I looked over to the top of Harrods. I'm thinking about what I'm either going to say on the radio or what I'm going to do. And I see these guys walking around with submachine guns. And I rang the managing director and said, thought having guns was illegal in this country. And he said, why? I said, because I can see men patrolling the top of Harrods carrying machine guns. Oh, no, you didn't see anything, Adrian. You didn't. I said, yes, I did. I can see them through the window from the studio. No, don't make a fuss. You didn't see anything. But I saw them. And as I say, I'd met Mohammed Al Fayed on a couple of occasions when he came across. And Mohammed Al Fayed, he always arrived at Harrods and left Harrods at a different time every single day. A different time a different route with different bodyguards, and nobody knew when he was leaving. No one, except his close protection officers. And what he would do when he would come across the road, because there was a tunnel under the Brompton Road from Harrods into the building, which I think is office spaces now. I think they must have sold, whoever bought Harrods has possibly sold off the building. So he used to come through the tunnel, and he always had 4 Harrods security and 4 personal security. And Mr. Fayed's personal security were always ex-Special Forces. That's why Trevor East-Jones and Kez Wingfield, the 2 that were protecting Diana and Dodie at the time, they were both ex-Special Forces. And when he would come into the radio station, we would literally get a minute or two, the phone call. Mr. Fayed's coming up. So we've got, in essence, enough time for him to get in the lift, go up 6 floors and walk out. And what would happen was that 2 of the Harrods security would walk out first, and the office was really long. It was thin and long, so to speak. As I say, studios at one end and some offices for the managers at the other end. And the Harrods security would come out and then go to the far end of the office. Then 2 of his personal protection officers would come in and go to the far ends of the office. Then another 2 of his personal protection officers would come in and take up a stand near the office. And then the final 2 Harrods protection officers would then come into the office and then take up a post, so that there was the 4 of them at the 4 corners of the room, and there was one personal at one end, one personal at the other end, and the other 2 would stand outside the office. So he was protected at all times. But he thought that attack, Boston Breaks, was at him and not Dodie. And Diana had said that they were going to try and take her out in a car crash. Boston Breaks. You can Google the Boston Breaks technique and it'll tell you everything that you need to know. I don't think they've taken that offline. But there are things that that's interesting, GB Patriot. Rumour has it that both Dodie and Fayed worked for MI5 and Fayed for Mossad. I know that Captain Bob and the Maxwell family were pretty well in bed with Mossad, the Israeli intelligence services, and Captain Bob is buried on, and I've been to the graveyard in Jerusalem where he's buried. He's buried on one of the mountains, and once you've buried someone there, you can't dig them up, you can't reinter them, you just have to leave them. So I'll check that. Didn't realise that, but he was and for an example, Mr. Fayed, because he owned the Harrods building and everything inside the Harrods building, and owned the building across the road on the Brompton Road, he used to book all the phones. He knew exactly what was going on in his organisation. And GB Patriot, subscribers need to watch the movie about Diana's death, the one with Keith Allen narrating it. Thank you, GB Patriot. I will check that out. So episode 4 was a tough watch for me because I actually knew Fayed, met him. Dodie came in once, and we actually had one of his sofas came up from his office, because he had an office in the bowels of Harrods and Brompton Road somewhere, and one of his sofas came across. And the reason why I'm hesitating is because I know something that would be very disingenuous for me to put into this live, because it would just be flippant. But in time, I will bring everything that I know to this channel. So episode 4 was a tough watch for me, but episode 3, episode 1 and 2 gave you the context of what was going on at the time. And they sort of intimated that Diana and Dodi hadn't really been seeing each other for that long in any kind of relationship before they got caught out in Paris in the tunnel. Oh, I think they had. I think they had. Now, if you have watched the 4 parts, you will know that there was the Crown depicts a flotilla of press where the press are like, "Oh, are you seeing Dodi, Diana? Can we have a picture?" And there's the very famous picture of her sitting on the jonquil, which was Fayed's yacht. He had a couple. He's a fabulously wealthy man. And she's sitting on the jonquil on like a diving board in a blue leotard swimsuit. But that's not the important one. And when I make the video, I'm going to use this picture because there was a leopard print swimming bathing costume that she wore. Can you remember that picture? Have you looked at it recently? And what do you see? You tell me. Because there are rumours that Diana was pregnant at the time of the crash. Now, constitutionally, that would have been quite a bombshell. What can you see? Pink Roses has been carol singing tonight. Blimey, it's only 5 weeks, Pink Roses. It's still November, man. But I hope you had a good time. Tablock Tracy, the film was called Unlawful Killing, directed by Keith Allen, written by Victor Lewis Smith. Whoa, what's happened to Victor Lewis? And starring Piers Morgan. Well, Piers has been in the press the last couple of days saying, "Oh, she took me up like a kipper, done me up like a kipper." So there is, there's kind of there's an overarching, there's a story arc, definitely, but the detail of some of it, they've made Charles to look out to be good, positive. Queen, when Diana appears as ghost to both of them, it's very gentle, and it's the now King Charles is depicted quite well. And I'll ask you one question. I'm not going to give you the answer, but I'm going to ask you one question. Why do you think they embalmed Diana's body? They didn't embalm the Queen's body before she was interred. And that's the Queen, Queen Elizabeth II. Didn't embalm her. So why did they embalm Diana? And there is something else that I will keep to myself for the moment, but I will bring it to this channel in good time. And the Crown didn't cover it accurately. They didn't. I think there's a lot of artistic license going on in the Crown. I think the writing, Diana, Elizabeth Debicki, just throw all the awards at her, just give them all Oscars, Emmys, just give them all. I mean, she's so superb. You kind of look at Elizabeth Debicki and you think, oh, is that Diana? I mean, her mannerisms, her voice, her everything, superb. And as is Dominic West, played Charles. You can look at him and think, wow, all his mannerisms, everything. Even Imelda Staunton was brilliant as the Queen. And so I think what they've tried to do is they've tried to be kind to the royal family, because everybody, look, Harry's not even in it. Bless him. He's not even in it. I think what they've done is they've done 4 episodes around the Diana story, kept it as separate, and then they're doing the next 6 episodes on December 14th, and I don't, for the moment, know what that contains. But Andrew James is asking, anyone seen the new documentary Fall of Minneapolis? No, but thanks for alerting me, Andrew. The Henri Paul. Now, the only way to get an accurate reading as to whether Henri Paul was drunk or not, you have to go in through the eyeball. But they whisked the body away so nobody could do an accurate reading. So the narrative of Henri Paul, the driver, was drunk, we will never know whether that is true or not, because they didn't do an accurate reading. I mean, all the mainstream media were like, oh, yeah. We don't know. And where was the little white Fiat that some people have said was in the tunnel at the time of the crash? Now, I have no proof of this. It is merely subjecture. But I was told by somebody whose testimony and source is impeccable. That white Fiat, because there was white paint on Mr. Fiat's car, was driven straight out of the tunnel, down Eurostar, poof, was in England before the story had really hit the wires. Because Paris is only a couple of hours away. So where's the white Fiat? More importantly, I can't remember whether she was Dutch or German, but there was a female at the entrance of the tunnel at the time of the crash, and she disappeared. She rang the police. And that's where the Crown kind of got it right, but didn't get it right. It wasn't accurate, because the female was at the entrance to the tunnel, and they had it down as a male dog walker. So if you were around at the time, you will remember that there was talk of a female at the entrance to the tunnel. There was talk of a bright light blinding Henri Paul, and the white Fiat, somebody in the white Fiat on the back of one of the bikes flashed this blinding light, so Henri Paul couldn't see where he was going. And that's why he hit the stanchion. But I've said this to you before. That car was bomb-proof. All Mr. Fiat's personal cars were bomb-proof. They weighed tons and tons and tons. And I think the way that the Crown has created this narrative, they've had to be very careful, because there were so many questions. Why did it take an ambulance 3.5 hours to get Diana to a hospital, which was only sort of minutes away? Why did the ambulance stop? The narrative, the official narrative was that they were working on her. They needed the ambulance to stop still, so they stopped the ambulance. GB Patriot wasn't the owner of the white Fiat the photographer, and didn't he kill himself in a forest, that a clearing that nobody knew about, only the locals? GB Patriot says Henri was a fall guy. The guy who owned the Fiat committed suicide by pouring petrol over himself, but the autopsy proved he was dead before the petrol was used. GP Patriot goes on to say Diana was finished off in the ambulance. The thing is, though, we'll never know the truth. Never. But I've said this to you before, like 9/11, I was there in the moment. I was broadcasting. I was literally, when this happened, I got straight into Brompton Road from home in Hampton. And we were kind of waking up on the Sunday morning. We didn't know what was going on. It almost the fog of war. The first 60 minutes, you might get some kind of truth. After that, it's managed. All of it is managed. So the things that I can take away from literally being at the center of it was, I believe that the country as a collective had never experienced anything like this before or since. And the Queen up in Balmoral just didn't get it right. She got most things right in her life, but she just didn't get this call. And as someone said in The Crown, you're the mother of the nation. They need to see you. They need to know that you're there with them, because this is not their words, it's mine, but it'll bring them some succor, it'll bring them some comfort. And Kay Webster says, Adrian, all this tragedy, which has been such a part of our lives, and the way you call out and postulate around Prince Harry just doesn't make sense to me. That's because what I know, I haven't brought to the channel yet, Kate. No, I can't. No, not now. Not now. But I will. I will. Because whilst working in commercial radio, whether it be LBC or BBC, if you wish, I get people contacting me all the time. And some of it is, some of the things that they tell me is enough to make your hair curl. And Harry, you will never be allowed to know the truth. Ever. As the Jacobite has said, the Queen was with her people. A lot of people in the north were very upset with how they talked about it. If the Queen was in London, would she be with her people? I think, and it's sort of portrayed in The Crown this way, but she called it wrong. And I'm not going to misstep or say anything out of turn until I know that I can. Thank you, Adi. So I will look at the Keith Allen documentary and see what's in there, because I know what I know. And it's almost sort of a Buddhist technique of, rather than be engaged with what's in front of your eyes, as a lot of people are with the mainstream media. I mean, look at the last 3 years. I take a step back and observe, and I allow things to be what they're meant to be. And having done that with a lot of interesting. Let me just respond to Kate. Thank you, Kate. What I mean, Adrian, you are so compassionate towards Diana, but don't allow for all what has gone on will have greatly affected both princes in different ways. I completely agree, Kate. I completely agree. But you can... I was having this conversation with the new Mrs. Allen, and I said to her, look, it's a really tough job, the spare. Probably harder than the heir. Because what's your rationale for living? What, you have all this power and all this money and anything that you want, anybody that you want, you can literally do anything you want and it'll be covered up. So look at Margaret. Look at Margaret having an affair with Johnny Bindon. Hung like a horse, Bindon. She loved him for it. A couple of half-pint glasses. Was it 5 or 6 half-pint glasses on it? So Margaret struggled with being the spare. Harry has struggled with being the spare. But who is it that we look up to that hasn't struggled as far as we're aware? Princess Anne. Look at how Princess Anne has lived her life, although there is stuff. Again, look, I'll be having the security forces knock on my front door going, hello, Adrian, in their dark glasses at 11 o'clock at night. Hello, Adrian. It's a bit like, you know, when Diana was married to Charles, why do you think Diana's father came out and said, and this is to the world's media, everybody, everywhere, yes, my daughter's a virgin. Why do you think her dad came out I mean, how disrespectful is that to a woman? Telling the world, oh yes, daughter's a virgin. Why do you think he said that? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Because that's not a truth. There is a story that in polite society was talked about over cocktails. So, Kate, thank you for that. Kate says, yeah, I see a lot of similarities with Margaret and also Edward and Mrs. Simpson. If you think about it, they have so much power, so much wealth, one of the oldest bloodlines on the planet Earth, connected with everyone, whether it be WEF or the great and the good, the most powerful, and Harry is in there. Am I as compassionate with Harry as I am with Diana? I think Diana had her issues. I think she was a bit of a girl. I mean, if you look at some of the books that have been written and speak of Diana, they say she was banging like a barn door in a storm. Their words. She was lost. She was rudderless. She only got 15 million is the divorce settlement from Charles. I mean, can you imagine? But 15 million back in the 90s was a lot of coin. And the wealthy, they have one job, and that is to continue the line. Well, if you're looking at the royal family, it is to continue the line. So when the king, he will look at the lineage and look at 3 generations. I've said this to you before. The powerful plan for 3 generations, everybody else plans for a Saturday night. So Charles's job is to look at 3 generations down the line and to make sure that his family, the Saxe-Coburgs, are still on the throne. It's power and money. William's a billionaire, seemingly, from the Duchy of Cornwall and other things, as will Charles. So, I mean, if you go back 1,000 years, not to give you a history lesson, but if you go back 1,000 years to the Knight Templar, the reason why they rounded up the Knight Templar and hung them and burned them is because the French king, Louis, owed them money and he wasn't going to pay them back. So what's the best thing to do? Get onto the Pope. Here, you know these Knight Templar malarkey boys, your personal bodyguard things. Can we burn them at the stake? Oh yeah, they've been having sex with each other, and so the king never paid them back all the millions that he owed them. So you have the powerful. If you take away the royal family, if you look at the powerful, the jobs are you have 2 sons, heir and a spare. The heir looks after the seat, the family seat. The family. If you look at Downton Abbey, it's the eldest's job to look after the family seat to make sure it just continues. But the second one, they went into the clergy because that's where the power lay. The money is with the family seat and the power is in the clergy. And that's why the second son normally went into the clergy hundreds of years ago. That's how they survived things. And so if you look at Harry and William, Harry is riven with jealousy around William. He's never going to get over that. That's why he's done various things. Self-admitted that he's looked at doing recreational stuff and ayahuasca, bizarrely. And the Crown have been very gentle with the royal family, and they had to. They couldn't just put out their stuff that they knew could be true, but why pick a fight? There's an old martial arts adage, why pick a fight with a man you know you can beat? but I believe the Crown has things to say. Look forward to the next 6 episodes, but those 4 episodes, Michael Scott says, speaking of millionaires, what's your thoughts on Prince Andrew's latest scandal in the Telegraph? Well, it's a bit, the reporting of that and Andrew is a bit odd. So, pizza menu, girls, hot dogs, boys. That's the code. As far as Andrew's concerned, Fergie is also involved. And they've made, what, 1.4 million? So, and somebody's coughed. It's just, you know how journalists have to be really accurate, otherwise they get the sock suit off them. It's a bit woolly, it's a bit fluffy, and it's not really, nobody's gone, right, this has happened, this has happened, this has happened, this is why it's happened, this is how it's happened, this is where it's happened, and here's the background. It's none of that. They've just said, oh, him and Fergie have made 1.4 million quid. For what? Because somebody said something and somebody wasn't very happy about it, sort of? Yeah, GB Patriot's right. I bet he wasn't sweating about it. I've met Andrew, but that's another story for another night. I want to go to, I mean, I've loved talking about the Crown. I haven't told you everything that I know about Fayed. I'm going to do that in a separate video. I'm going to do what I know about Diana in a separate video. And bizarrely, everything that I'm going to tell you is actually in the public domain. But people have such short memories. And that's what they bank on. That's what the rich and powerful bank on. They also bank on 132 of you watching, you wrong-uns. Smash the likes. We always like to get over 100 for the lives on a Wednesday and a Sunday. Yeah, wrong-uns. But, you know, I'm going to bring more stories around the Crown. And if there are enough hours in the day, then I will get it for the launch of the rest of the Crown. But please bear with me because there's stuff going on, lots going on. So let me get to, and I only wanted to make a passing reference. I'm going to do another 10 minutes or so. I wanted to make a passing comment about Diana, and I just wanted your take on it. And it's still, that's what I was going to tell you. So on the Friday night, I believe that this country needed that ceremony. They needed the funeral because you could feel, I mean, there were various books of condolence around Harrods because one book wasn't going to cut it. I mean, I used to go into work and come out of work, and all the week there was just a huge queue. I think there were 4 books at Harrods, 4 condolence books at Harrods, and the queues for all of them were huge. They were massive. And people were standing there for hours and hours and hours to sign that book of condolence. So we were doing various programs, and we had to be respectful of Mr. Fayed and his son Dodi and Diana and the royal family. So we had to tread a very gentle middle way. So we played songs on the radio that were not going to be offensive. They were just gentle and allowed the country, in essence, to grieve. But it got to the Friday night. And again, I was back in the studio because it was all hands on pumps. Everybody was trying to help in various ways. And I did a program called Songs for a Princess. And we asked the audience, look, if you want a song playing, then let us know and we'll play the song for you. And literally, I had people, listeners, weeping and wailing down the phone at me. And obviously this wasn't on the radio, it was a music show, so we would answer phones while the music was playing. But we had people in such a state that I believe that if we hadn't had the funeral on the Saturday, then it would have affected people's mental health. I mean, people were in a terrible state as it was. And it's one of the very few occasions where living in London, as I say, near to Hampton Court, just along the river, I've never seen London without cars on the roads. other than lockdown, but you weren't allowed into London to see it. So I was walking around, and literally you could hear a pin drop in London, and London is one of the noisiest cities on planet Earth. But out of the 4 episodes that I've seen so far, episode 4 was a challenge for me. Simply because I've met Fired. Funny guy, funny guy. Not in a tell gags kind of funny, just in an eccentric, funny way. And I will tell you other stories about his security, and I will tell you other stories about other people that worked in his organisation that needed stringent security. And I'll tell you, we haven't got time tonight, but I'll tell you again why Mr. Fired thought it was him and why he always had that level of protection with him at all times, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But it'll be on another live, possibly Sunday, possibly when the new episodes air. I want to just, I can't always give you answers, but what I do with these lives, and they're not monetized, is I just leave things with you so that a couple of weeks down the line you go, oh, Adrian said that 2-3 weeks ago, months ago. The Middle East. I told you weeks ago that there was a secret meeting in Geneva and that a peace deal, a ceasefire, had been agreed. Weeks ago. I told you that the Palestinian Authority were involved in that meeting. I told you that it wasn't going to escalate with Lebanon. I told you it wasn't going to escalate with Jordan. I told you it was not going to escalate with Iran. And have you noticed how the narrative has changed? I told you there was going to be a ceasefire. I told you they were trying to negotiate a peace deal, but it was all around the hostages. So I'm going to read you the Hamas official statement on the ceasefire because it looks like it's been agreed today. And the thing that I don't understand, and maybe you have an insight that you can offer to me and everybody else that watches this channel, but why are the press reporting it the way that they are reporting it? Because they will know that that meeting was held in Geneva, and they will know that a ceasefire was agreed. Because everything that I bring to you is in the public domain, but you're distracted by Nigel's arse. You're distracted by the clowns in Clown World. I told you they're the entertainment arm of the military-industrial complex. You're always distracted. And I'm not suggesting that it's your fault. I'm not judging anyone. It's just the way the system is. The news cycle is 24 hours. A story hits the wires. Within 24 hours, it's gone, finished, we're moving on. We live that faster-paced life now. Before, you would have a story that might run for a week. No, it's 24 hours now, if that sometimes. So I want to read this to you because I don't know why the press are saying, will they, won't they? When I've already told you weeks ago, they have agreed a ceasefire because they don't want it to blow up. Unfortunate choice of phrase. But I've also told you why Israel is doing what it's doing because of the amount of oil and gas under Gaza and the Ben Gurion Canal. Now, they won't come out. Look, if you look at Netanyahu, and I'm just sort of giving you some context here, the reason why Netanyahu, little Bibi, won't come out and mop this up really quickly and get victory really quickly is because he knows politically he's finished. There were demonstrations on the streets of Israel trying to get him out of power because they've had enough of him. Enough. Even his son, they've had enough of him. The Israelis are not happy with Benjamin Netanyahu. So what he's going to do, he's going to play the long game. He's going to play it for as long as possible. So the weeks ago that I told you that there was a ceasefire agreed in Geneva by all the parties, Andrew, I'll get to that in a second. Thank you for that. The reason why Netanyahu's taken his time is because he's done politically. He asked the Americans for $110 billion. $110 billion. The Americans were straight in there. And did you know that there were British military forces assisting the Israelis from our base in Cyprus, which is 40 minutes outside of Tel Aviv? Are you aware of that? Now, I know this is pretty heavyweight, but it's a really complex jigsaw. And what I attempt to do is just get through the fog of war. I keep telling you, the first casualty of war is always the truth. So I try to cut through this fog of war so you can see what's going on. We're supporting Israel with our troops and aeroplanes and armaments from our Cyprus base. The Americans are giving them money. So I'm not sure that all that money will go to the Israelis. Iran was given $6 billion before all of this kicked off. The Americans have given Taiwan $68 billion. Why would they give Taiwan $68 billion? That's why you had President Xi Jinping in America visiting Joe, wake up, Joe. Now, President Xi Jinping is looking at the end of his rule in China. So he's been over to a summit in San Francisco with the Biden crime family. And he's after a $900 billion bailout. Because America only have one thing, they'll print the dollars. That's what they do, they just print more dollars. That's why the Fed is a private company. It's not owned by the people, it's a private company. So China is about to hit economic collapse. They're asking for $900 billion from the Americans. Sleepy Joe's going, how much for me? 10% for me? So it's all a very complex, very powerful jigsaw. So I'm going to give you this Hamas official statement. And after hearing this and putting it out there, it's there for reference. It's a historical document. Once this is finished, it's up there. I don't do anything with it. I'll leave it up there. So the Hamas official statement on the ceasefire that's come out a couple of hours ago says, and I quote, "Based on our responsibility towards our patient and steadfast Palestinian people and our tireless endeavour to strengthen the steadfastness of our heroic people in our proud Gaza, to provide relief and heal their wounds, and to consolidate the will of our victorious resistance on the 7th day of October in the face of the Zionist enemy. After difficult and complex negotiations for many days, we announce, with the help and success of God Almighty, that we have reached a humanitarian truce." That's a temporary ceasefire for a period of 4 days, thanks to persistent and appreciated Qatari and Egyptian efforts. Accordingly, the terms set out are a ceasefire on both sides, a cessation of all military actions by occupation forces in all areas of the Gaza Strip, and a cessation of the movement of its military vehicles penetrating into the Gaza Strip. The entry of hundreds of trucks of humanitarian relief, medical, and fuel aid into all areas of the Gaza Strip without exception in the north and south. The release of 50 women and children of the occupation's detainees, all under the age of 19 years, in exchange for the release of 150 women and children of our people from the occupation's prisons under the age of 19 years, in order of time imprisoned. Stopping all occupation air traffic in the south for 4 days. Stopping all occupation air traffic in the north for 6 hours a day from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And remember, I told you that 6-hour cessation was coming weeks ago. During the truce period, the occupation is committed not to attack or arrest anyone in all areas of the Gaza Strip, ensuing freedom of movement of people from north to south along Salah el-Din Street. The terms of this agreement were formulated in accordance with the vision of the resistance and its determinants which aim to serve our people and strengthen their steadfastness in the face of aggression. And it was always mindful of their sacrifices, suffering, and concerns. And it conducted these negotiations from a position of steadfastness and strength in the field, despite the occupation's attempts to prolong and procrastinate the negotiations. That's not true. While we announce the arrival of a truce agreement, we affirm that our hands will remain on the trigger and our victorious battalions will remain on the lookout to defend our people and defeat the occupation and aggression. We promise our people that we will remain loyal to their blood, their sacrifices, their patience, their bond, and their aspirations for liberation, freedom, and the restoration of rights, and the establishment of an independent Palestine state with Jerusalem as its capital, God willing. Well, as I told you, there was a secret meeting in Geneva. This was all agreed at that secret meeting. And I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. So the Gazans that are in the West Bank, they're going to end up in Jordan. The Gazans in north of the Gaza Strip are going to be moved down to the south. Israel will build the Ben Gurion Canal through the Gaza Strip, so it will facilitate the movement of their oil and their gas and their military. So the bluff and bluster of this needs to be tackled, because you and I know that there are 4 Hamas leaders living in Qatar that have an amassed wealth between them of $11 billion. So the Gazan in the Gaza Strip, they are the ones that are being oppressed. They are the ones that are in grave danger. The leaders, I've told you about young little Yasser Arafat. He thieved hundreds of millions of dollars. Looks like leaders of Hamas are exactly the same. It looks like they're doing exactly the same that politicians do the world over. Point you there and then nick your money from here. I'm just happy that there has been a cessation. I do hope that the Ben Gurion Canal is built, and I do hope that there will be some kind of peace process so that the Middle East becomes a peaceful place, that whichever tribe they're from, they understand that that is where they live now. There'll be a lot of money in rebuilding the Sinai Peninsula. There'll be a lot of money in building the Ben Gurion Canal and extracting the oil and gas out of the Gaza Strip that will make Israel a very wealthy country. But hopefully once all of this is done, we can have peace in the Middle East. And a lot of the other countries are not getting involved because they know that this could escalate beyond anything that they've experienced before. But the money men in the Middle East know that there's going to be a lot of money from a new source and they want to be part of that particular game. That's what it's about. It's a banker's war. It's a money's war. So as I say, I'll leave this here for you. Now, look, I've also given you a caveat that if I was this psychic, I'd be winning the lottery every weekend, and I don't. So I think what's the old phrase? It's better to travel in hope than arrive disappointed. I want the killing to stop. I want the path forward to be agreed by all parties. I want Israel to finally be at peace with itself. And if the people of Israel decide that Bibi needs to be gotten rid of, just do it. You have the political process, you have democracy. You know what the boy's been up to. As they say in the Northeast, how do we end shite with him? And the Gazans? Look at your leaders. Why aren't they there with you, fighting with you? $11 billion and they live in Qatar. That stinks. I don't want any more killing. I don't want any more injuries. I don't want anything to happen that's going to be either life-changing we just have to be patient. But I will tell you this. If a politician wants to make big money, it's arms. That's where the big money is. Oh, and oil and gas, of course. And you've got politicians in this country, in the Great British Isles, that are going to be throwing out new exploration licenses like confetti. So, call me Dave. What was the first thing he did? He wasn't even a Lord. He wasn't inducted into the Lords. He was straight out of Ukraine. Straight out there. Oh, Volodymyr. Do you need out? I can sell you some. The first thing he did was he was straight out to Ukraine. He's only been in the Lords yesterday. Was it yesterday? Stinks, man. It stinks. But you've got to understand that the powerful need deniability. So Dave is just the firewall, because then nothing's going to touch little cockeyed. Dave's the firewall, but in the meantime, Dave's going to make a shed load of money. He don't care what you call him. He's making billions. Don't care. And Rishi's like, Dave, nice one. Because Rishi's going to end up in the House of Lords, but he's going to end up in the House of Lords an independent billionaire. So as I've said to you before, these people, when they enter the Houses of Parliament, should declare their wealth, all of it. And then when they leave the Houses of Parliament, and it won't be too long for little cockeyed, then they need to declare their wealth. And then they need to look at the difference. And if there's a massive disparity, then somebody somewhere needs to start asking questions. Look at Dave. He made tens of millions when he stopped being Prime Minister. Oh, it was the speech circuit in his books. My hairy backside. You can just see it a mile away. And you're thinking that the Chancellor has given you 2% off your national insurance, and you've got to be thankful for it, sir? Thankful for it, sir? They can foxtrot Oscar. Give me 10% of what you're making from arms and armaments instead of 2% off my national insurance, you cheeky tarts. Caring, understanding 90s type. The load of them. Just call me Dave. No, I'll call you a pig fucker. I'll just put me little chap in the pig's mouth. Can I be part of the gang? Can I be part of the gang if I put me little chap in the pig's mouth? No, you deviant fucker. You see, I go anywhere near this and I just end up being potty mouth, and I apologise for some of the language, but it just gets me angry that, you know, the heating this winter, the fact that they haven't dropped any taxes, but it's national insurance, which is another form of tax. You look if you get out and they're mincing off into the sunset with tens of millions of pounds in their back pocket. Honestly, if I shook hands with this lot, I'd have to count my fingers afterwards, make sure I still had them all. And that's why I try to do my best not to be a potty mouthed and a dirty old tart. But it's, these idiots are enough to make a saint swear. So I think we'll sort of leave it at that, simply because, I could go on for hours tonight. There's so much going on. I will look at the comments. Thank you for all of your comments and your interactions tonight. Please, 138 of you viewing, if you could just hit the likes. If you enjoyed what I did this evening, then please just smash the likes. Get us over 100, because it helps the algorithm and it helps the channel. I was going to talk about the Windsors again in a different guise. I was going to talk about Top Gear. What? I mean, Jeremy Clarkson must be absolutely wetting his incontinence pants tonight. Not in a nasty way, but nobody was watching. I didn't watch. I switched it off. I'm not going to watch that shite. But Clarkson and the team, Hammond and May, are they going to leave it? I don't think it's gone completely. I do think it'll come back. 3 or 4 years. Today is the 60th anniversary of the assassination of JFK. Today, Wednesday. I was going to talk about that, but it would have taken another hour. I just want to pass this comment. So the Nicola Bulley, are you as confused as I am? I can't work out what's going on. I can't work out who's telling the truth. I can't work out what the truth is. Poor Nicola. And then you've got Chief Constable Andy March. He's the chief exec of the College of Policing. And he said in the papers today, our officers stand ready to rebuild trust with the media. What? So I'll ask the Chief Constable of the College of Policing, which is not a police force. Let me tell you, it's not. How many officers and staff have won at employment tribunal in the last 2 years from any of the forces in Great Britain? How many officers and staff have won at employment tribunal in the last 2 years? Policing is almost finished in this country. Finished. Look at the debacle in London, where they were protecting one faction and then going after a smaller faction. And I know a load of cops, and I know them to be, there's some incredible people that are trying to do their best by their community. But these wobbly-headed idiots at the top, they have no clue about real life. They have no clue about what goes on in the world. And they've all started as probies for 2 years on the streets as response cops. And then they get into the rarefied atmosphere of getting massive pensions and being paid £250,000 a year or more in some of them. No clue. And they're saying we're trying to rebuild the trust with the media. The media have seen through you, man. They're never going to trust you. They're laughing at you. Who'd want to be a cop? Who'd want to be a police officer now? You're being laughed at. And do you know, this government have said to police forces, oh, you've got to root out the racists and the homophobes and the sexists. So any excuse to tick a box and get rid of people. Not the crooks. No. You can't go chasing the crooks. Behave. You can't go chasing a particular group who are being racist towards another group. Can't do that. No. And they're saying our officers stand ready to rebuild trust with the media. To use a very wise old saying, you can foxtrot Oscar, mate. We've seen through you. We're laughing at you. It's going to take you at least 2 generations to be able to sort all this out. Yeah, as Wiggy Video said, all the crooks have MP after their names. Thank you, Sharky. Thank you for your likes. We're almost at 100. If you could smash it, that would be brilliant. Thank you for your subscriptions, but as ever, most of all, your indulgence. My name's Adrian Allen. We might have a little Battenberg on Sunday because it is God's Day. Be well, be safe, and there's more videos coming over the next few days. See you later.